Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media. Today, folks, we want to give you some groundbreaking news about Q. So, I don't know where to get started, but let me just say this. If you are heavily invested in Q, and I know that some of our readers are, you might not want to listen to this audio that we're going to do because it's going to shatter, perhaps not, but it may shatter what you think of Q.
It will shatter everyone's view of Q, even ours.
Yes, it did. So what happened, and let me just preface it. You know that we like to drill down for truth. When we found out that Leader Technologies was the original company that developed social media, we just got over there and we filmed Michael McKibben and we put it up because we're all about truth. When we heard about Senior Executive Services and we had seen all the amazing work that Abel Danger and Phil McConnell had done on this, we said we need to bring this to the top and make sure that all of our readers and viewers know exactly what this is. And now that whole topic is on fire. The next thing that I asked Thomas and the Conclave if we could work on is this puzzle about Q. Now, if you've read us for a while, you'll notice that we don't post a lot of stuff about Q. We did in the beginning because we were very interested in the original Q. And those who follow Q know that there was an original Q, and then there appears to have been a force that took over Q and is like a Psyop Q. And then we also watch our media personalities discuss Q. And so we decided, well, let's use the same sleuthing techniques we've used in other riddles to be solved, and let's get to the bottom of Q. So that's what we've been doing. And we have found the original Q, and that's what Thomas is going to tell you about today. But to preface that, I have been contacted by a number of entities who claim they're Q. So I make sure to ask them a few questions, and they never pass the test, and I never feel that I have found an original Q. However, on this one, we did, what would you say? We felt like we were finding something real here, right, Thomas?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, really real. And so what we started doing is we unearthed our research. We started leaving clues on our Truth News headlines that comes out daily. We left some of the big clues a few days ago. And then from that, we were contacted by the original Q group. This weekend, Thomas spent hours on the phone with them, vetting their story. I would get synopsis, and it's all valid, folks. And Thomas isn't easily fooled, so what he found out is the real deal. But we're not going to disclose it disclose those details because it is a puzzle for you to solve. We solved it, and we got contact, and now Thomas is going to explain what is it about Q.
This is a question that, as you know, myself, the Conclave, and Betsy have only addressed a few times. And that's because Conclave members were on fire with asking, well, let's just get real blunt about this, just Betsy and I. They'd say, is this real? Because they saw real parts to it in the first original Q. So they brought it to us, and we analyzed it, and I gave out my personal opinion, and I stated it was my personal opinion. And now I have actually repeated that personal opinion again to the Q Collective, and they say, yes, that's exactly what was going on.
Now, when you say Q Collective, you're talking about the original Q group, because we got to make sure we properly name these.
Yes, since I'm going to be referring to what Betsy was talking about, I'm going to go back and repeat a couple things she said. When she was first contacted by the people, and I don't want to get too specific here, okay?
Yeah.
Because what we're dealing with here is the entire crux of the matter of free speech. The original Q is all about truth, riddles, puzzles, and creating interest for people to study the important issues of the day and get to the deep secrets by Socratic questioning and by interesting them in a riddle. But these are the biggest and best riddlers on the internet. And that's how we came to the full contact of them, because all these other people contacted Betsy and her team, and as she said, she analyzed them. She says, "You can come look at this, but it doesn't get us anywhere." Betsy's always about moving the ball forward, and that's why she is our strategy leader. For all of us, I was trying to figure out how many people there are of us this morning, and I think there's now over 700 people, and she's our strategist, and we all listen to her. So also she brought the puzzle to me, and together we talked it through and figured it out. I guess not many people have figured it out. It was very evident. How long did it take us to figure that puzzle out, Betsy?
Well, it's not important.
2 minutes?
Because we're so absorbed in this.
2 minutes, right?
All right, yes.
1 minute.
All right.
Okay.
Had we been paying attention, we would have figured out
We're going
a
to give
long
you the
time
puzzle now. Because what do here at Aim for Truth? We hit the mark. We hit the mark of truth. And so we're going to give you the puzzle. Search it out. Go on the internet. Look up Cicada 3301, which was in the original posts as the original puzzle and lead for anyone who was a cryptologist. I'm a cryptologist. I helped invent a lot of the NSA original cryptology. I actually helped write it. So I really love cryptology. So when I saw the first one, I told John Barnwell, "Oh, that's a collection and operations center, NSA person looking at a screen." And when I asked the collective if I was right about that, they said, "Well, yes, almost exactly." And I said, "Oh, what do you mean?" And I can't say the next thing. And then they said, "Yes." So all along the way, the people that we have now contacted us because we solved the riddle confirm everything. The other people, and Betsy's being very humble. We have 100% proof of who started the phenomena, where, when, the time, the dates, the date stamps, the entire internet proof. They sent it all to us. We have all that. That's not the issue. The people who set up the channels weren't the wizards. The Q are a bunch of wizards. These are the smartest people around. If you solve these riddles, you'll be invited into a group. You've heard about this. You've seen movies about this. I didn't believe it. It's real. Now, I'm going to give you the riddle.
In the meantime,
all you geniuses,
we invited them into our collective.
Yes, we invited them into our collective, and they find us to be somewhat interesting.
All right, so we posted this a few days ago. And that was our shout across the bow that we had figured the puzzle out, and we were contacted very shortly thereafter. Eagles rain fire on the Canaanite as the merchant of wine challenges Cyrus. The sword of Lily joins forces with Jacob's adopted children.
Yeah. Now, the first minute, we went through all the symbols. And then the second minute, we just said, no, what does it mean? And then we knew exactly what it meant. Because of the truth in it, the wisdom in it. The people who write these write them mathematically. That cadence, that meter, the words, everything in it is a riddle. It's cryptography. The second she showed it to me, I said, wait a second. Who are these people? Wait a second. And then I realized, oh my gosh, people had brought me these tests, these riddles online to check your IQ, I guess is what it...
No, this was a while back.
Long time ago. This goes way back.
People remember this. There were some tests you could take to do your IQ. Maybe you recall they came up on your Facebook page or something, and I saw them, and I laughed. I gave it to Thomas, and I said, I'd give you this test to Pat, but you'll blow it out of the water like you do all these IQ tests. So we just laughed about it and pushed it aside. Apparently, this was all related.
Yeah, and I would have loved to take it. I love riddles. When I was young, solving riddles, I couldn't stand a riddle I couldn't solve. That bothered me, so I would work on it really hard, and that's what got me into computers in the early 70s. I had one of the first computer
Thomas,
degrees.
let's not go so far out in the weeds. Let's
that's where I learned cryptography, because I know machine language. So I can go back to the machine language, to unit record equipment. I can go back to reading the registers. I can read machine language. So when I looked at this, I'm going, wait a second, this is COC machine language back from the 70s. And now we have it confirmed from one of the collective that they did that as a riddle for us, Betsy, because they said we knew that Thomas was old school NSA, so we put that at the front. And I said, the first second I looked at it, I went, whoa, how can this be? They surely have changed it by now. This was code that I wrote. I don't know how they got that. These people are the greatest geniuses in the world. Okay. So anyway, let's go back to where we're at now. Betsy was approached, and the people had all the proof of the people who hosted it. Then she was approached by, as she says, psyops. Then she was approached by psyops, and then they have now attacked the entire alternative media. Right now, instead of just turning us off, they're going after us for two things, and that's the reason we threw down the gauntlet about SES, and we're going to do a show on that today. But the Q phenomena has now exploded because of a drop called Q squared. And we're going to talk about that, but
no, Thomas, Q squared is nothing.
No,
it's not going to go
it's
anywhere.
It's the third level.
It's some, it's some kind of like this looks like a Donald J. Trump writing. I mean, it's just crazy stuff. I mean, just dismiss it. I want to focus on Q and then the transition that happened with Q.
I am getting ready to set that up. The third Q is now out, and we want to put it in perspective. So we're going to teach you how to discern Q. Now, the Conclave. Think I'm nuts for not talking about a few different subjects. All of those subjects are wrapped up in what we're talking about. And the reason we chose SES is we don't like to be general. We don't like to say the deep state. We want to give you the list of 500 DOJ lawyers who are running the SES of 10,000 people that are running the federal government that reaches into 75 agencies. We don't like to give you general information. So we never wanted to give you anything more than our opinion about the original Q. And our opinion about the original Q is what I'm trying to underscore here is pretty correct. So the other second psyops and all the other stuff you've shown us from Q's trying to contact us, we found to be without merit, as you pointed out. It didn't move the ball forward. It wasn't without merit. These people worked so hard to demonstrate to us they were Q, and why? They wanted to work with us. So anytime a Q comes to you, alternative news people, if you're honest, be very careful. You could be being used. And in the latest drops, they make anti-Semitic remarks that could literally get people in big trouble. So we want to warn people about that.
Now that's the Q squared. We have to keep them all separate, Thomas.
But also, Q, the second Q, there's three Qs. The second Q also was going overboard on some things. Let's go back to the original Q. They didn't have Q clearance. It was the order of the letters they were using in their riddles, folks. Exactly as I said, it had nothing to do with Q, more so than perhaps Q on Star Trek or Q who made James Bond's fancy devices, because these are riddlers. These are really smart people. So in the NSA, I'm used to the egghead humor, and I saw egghead humor. I laughed. All the original posts made me laugh. They tingled me inside. My little
Can we get to some meat here?
My little cryptological self was absolutely tickled every time they showed me the original post. And I said, but where is it going? It's pointing in the same direction we are pointing. And now we find out that, yes, they watch us very closely. But they don't want to compromise anybody. And they were just doing a good thing. And it was part of their thing, which they're going to continue.
Okay, so now this is a great place to explain cyber warfare. May I take a moment to do that?
Please.
Okay. So then you have the original Q, and these people are master puzzle makers. So that's a tip. And they created this phenomena, and millions of people started playing Q. Now, what they have done is they've laid a communication network down, and it's bypassing the mainstream media and also much of the alternative media that's just filled with psyops. So, for example, you might find a former radio broadcaster who now is on independent alternative media, but maybe he or she is paid by the Bureau of Broadcasting Governors or something. You have other independents that are running around, taking plane trips, filming everyone everywhere in the world. You have to ask who's paying for them. And again, you might find that they were and are still SES employees, maybe even drawing a pension from SES. So we've drilled down and we know who they are and we know how they're getting paid. I know you're going to talk about that later. But in order, if you were late to the game, if you're psyops and you're late to the game, it's very difficult to build a network so quickly. I mean, some of you guys are out there in alt media space just starting your channel, and you put up YouTube and maybe you get 50 hits, maybe 100. But in order to get your lines going, you've got to leverage off people and make connections. Well, Thomas and I started this a few years ago. We saw what was happening and we realized we had to get our own network laid down. Q came in later, and its network was so appealing to people that millions joined in. So then you have a rogue element that doesn't have that network. They come in and they fight for that network, and that's called cyber warfare. And that's what happened to the original Q. An entity came in, beat them up, cyber warfare, they won, they left. But regular people don't know that. They still think it's the same Q talking to them, and it's not. So now, can we be specific and talk about that?
That's the next stage. That was stage 1 I described with the riddles. You just described stage 2 and how it happened. I'm going to describe our reaction to it. All the original Qs that were brought to me, I thought they were wonderful. And I kept thinking, man, these people think like we do. And yeah, this is great. And then sometime in October and then November, they would bring me these things from the Conclave, and I'd say, no, there is a cyber war going on here. This is the Global Engagement Center working with other forces, and now we know who those other forces are, attacking the original Q and literally taking over its site. And they have to have certain NSA tools that you'll find in Vault 7 to do that. And what we noticed was then there was a little battle going on, and they could just hold them up to me and say, what is this? What is this? I said, that's real, that's not. How do you know this, Thomas? Count the spaces. It's all cryptology. You can just look at it and know. And there's no insider caca. When they started taking pictures out the window of air...
Pens on the desk.
Pens on the desk at Camp David,
Yeah.
and I'm right next to Trump right now. I am Trump's spokesperson. Guess what? That person goes to jail for the rest of their life because every one of those was a national security breach of the highest level directly from the president's office. Nothing is any higher than that. So that person would have gone to jail, and they have, they have, I believe, as many as 4 or 5 separate groups of people. One of them being Horowitz's Department of Justice Inspector General crew of 500 trying to find the leakers. Let's remember McMaster's was fired for just leaking something the other day, and Bolton was brought in to close up the leaks. These people would have to go to jail. It was fake. We knew it was fake. That's when we thought that it was somebody like a Scaramucci who's a nutcase just trying to get some attention to try to point in the right direction. Because at first, when the Psyops took over for the first Q and the second Q, I was pointing out to everyone, we're not going to run this. We're not going to discuss this. We don't have proof. Well, we had circumstantial evidence. So I gave out the circumstantial evidence from the beginning, and that was more than that. I analyzed it, and it was cryptology using numerology. It was open source. It was not a leak. The second one, total nonsense, no cryptology. The people who try to read things into those are stretching it because the people who started the PSYOPs have some knowledge of this. Of course they do. These are NSA people running the Global Engagement Center.
And of course, for regular people, what was really the flag is when it came out and said to trust Sessions. And it's not so much about the message, but no one in this community gives you a command to do something. We always provide the relevant documents to show you why we're saying that.
Yes, and we'll provide you the proof, and all you got to do is look it up. And we usually do an intelligence report on anything we're discussing. We're not going to do one on this. It needs to stay audio only. And there's very, very amazing things, even as an old school NSA, and yeah, old school. Go ahead, underline old school, you guys. I know, but it doesn't matter. I helped to design some of those systems, so I know the logic of why they work. Not the systems change all the time, so it's very easy. Now, as Betsy just pointed out, when the second Q PSYOPs takeover started talking about trust Sessions, anyone who from the Conclave who brought me that had to face the worst three-headed dog of hell, because I would rip their head off. If you ever bring me another piece of garbage like this saying trust Sessions, I'm not giving you any more cheesecake, and you are cut off from the cappuccino machine, and you don't even get lattes. that, is serious punishment around here. So I told them, no, don't bring me this junk. And then I started just cussing because it started getting stupid and crazy, making predictions. So then one day they brought me one and I said, okay, you've really upset me now. You guys are supposed to be smart. Let me show you something. So I sat them down and I showed them the cryptology nonsense that they were trying to copy because they didn't have the geniuses that the first Q had. The second Q are a bunch of, junior NSA people playing a game, and they think it's a game. But the game is to take down Trump. It was supposed to associate Trump with leaks. It was supposed to run Psyop's disinformation so that we would trust Sessions. Anyone who trusts Sessions hasn't been listening to us. He's an enemy of the state. We won't reveal what we have on him at this moment. But let's just say he's an enemy of the state and he needs to go. Now, second group of Q started getting out of hand. And of course, they were challenged, and there was a battle between the first and the second group. And anybody who looked at those challenges in the time in October and November when they were fighting for the site, and of course, the government took over the site, but it's not only the government working alone. The government always works with foreign intelligence agencies whenever they want to do a serious counterintelligence. A very serious counterintelligence, but they already had the power through the Global Engagement Center to take it over. So why did they have the battle? Raise up those numbers. There's one person who says 30 million people listen to the Q phenomena, and now that Q squared has dropped and it's crazy talk, I won't read beyond the first drop because it's crazy talk. I said...
It's a wackadoodle post. I mean, anybody with any critical thinking skills would look at that and just immediately dismiss it.
And it could get sites that post it or repost it shut down.
Yes.
It's anti-Semitism. And anyone who wants to be general, whether they say deep state, okay, if you say deep state, you might as well just say a generalized racist remark. Let's get specific. If you say military-industrial complex and you don't name who that is and how the mechanism works to run it, you add to the problem. That is the reason Q1 did not give out false information and did not break any laws and did not leak anything. And they were aimed towards truth and wisdom. It was hijacked because what they were doing was so cool that it just exploded.
And they had the networks laid down.
Well, they built the network
Yes.
accidentally. They didn't know.
Doesn't matter. It was still built, and the rogue faction came in and stole those lines from them.
But let me correct myself. I am not going to tell the secrets yet until they allow me to. But when we tell the secrets, Betsy, people are going to be blown away, and they're going to think the Q phenomena was minor compared to what they're about to do. But anyway, the point is, it's easy to discern it. There's no cryptology in the new drop from Q squared. There's no cryptology in the drops now from the fake Psyops Q2. No. There was never anybody with any clearance. I said this from the beginning. These people don't have inside knowledge. You want to know, I'm sorry to have to say this, but this is the truth. Go ahead, Betsy.
No, go ahead.
We were helping Q2 by predicting things that were going to happen. And if you look closely at our dates and their dates, you will see Q2 followed us very closely and used our open source information. None of what we have is from a whistleblower insider, and Q1 is not such. No laws are broken here. We know what we're doing. We have plenty of lawyers. We have so many people now. But, as always, I just gave you the clue to get you into the real Q if you want to. They'll find you, trust me, very quick. These people are like lightning when they strike. Secondly, if you want to understand Q2, don't read Q2. Read us. They're getting their predictions from us. Q squared, Q3, the new one, don't even read it.
It's garbage. All right, now look. Now you've got alternative media personalities, and their whole shows are about Q and unraveling Q. What do you have to say about that? First, I would say, who's paying them to do this stuff? What would you ask?
Betsy, as you know, this is no game. 4 or 5 videos ago, I was screaming. This is life and death. This is a battle. This is a battle for America. We don't need to be here. We don't make money. We lose massive amounts of money, all of us involved in this venture. We are prepared for the battle. We are prepared. I am prepared, and people say this all the time, Thomas, people can figure out who you are. Aren't you scared about that? No, I'm prepared to die for what I'm saying. And what I'm telling you now, I would never tell you anything that I have not vetted to the very best of my ability. And so far, we have made maybe a couple slight mistakes that I apologize for. I think there's one I need to apologize for. And we're going to do one today where I'm going to apologize for my roughness on George Webb. What is going on here? Betsy told you. These are crumbs she's leaving you. She leaves crumbs all over Truth News headlines. You know who she is? She is Frigg. You know where she goes every day? To the well of Erd. Figure that out, folks. We now have I have a direct contact as Odin to the well of Mimir. Anything I want to know, I just slightly whisper, and we get more information. Betsy gets geology, miners, jewelers, you name it. I don't know how many people are on your team now, Betsy, but the Conclave would like to say to you that you are giving out more information than WikiLeaks gives because they're not just riddles, they are direct evidence.
Well, my dear, you did not answer my question. You sidestepped that. I want to talk about these alt media creators that are spending all this time spinning everybody's wheels on Q.
All right, I'm getting there. Some of these people are going down. The honest ones, if they're gone, they're real. What did they get taken down for? Nonsense. Let me put it this way. Alex Jones says in one broadcast more than the nature doctor, what's his name? No. I'm naming people. Those are honest people. They're some of the best places you could have gotten news. There's a dozen of them. They're gone. Everything. Well, what they did to them is not even legal. They went in and took down things they owned.
Okay, but that was their YouTube. That was their YouTube channel, and YouTube says that they own everything, and it's not yours, and they can take it down for whatever reason.
They've taken down websites now, so they brought some
You're
of them back.
You're thinking of Mike Adams. I'm sorry, it took me a moment.
Yes, okay. And they brought some of them back because of lawsuits. You notice that they closed Joram Corsi. He stood up and said, I will sue you. They closed Alex Jones, and then he mysteriously opened. The same bullying of the same people was still posted, and yet they allowed them to open. But some people are closed and will never open again. We get attacks all the time. If you don't think we're prepared for that, Mr. and Mrs. How would I say this? NSA, whatever, whoever you are.
You don't need to be, flapping the red cloak in front of everybody, and you're not answering my question.
Yes, I'm getting there. We know what we're doing, and we're willing to make the sacrifices. That's the reason for what you should know is redundancy that you can't follow. So don't even attempt to bother us. Nothing we're going to say can you ever get us on. And those people who have picked up the gauntlet and tried to fight with us, we said, if you do not address SES directly, we know who you are. And then what did we find out? Some of them are actually working. They're actually retired and they're in SES. Matter of fact, we know the exact services they're in and we know their names. Because we now have an inside track that is beyond your imagination. But we don't care about that. We care about you listeners. Don't get lost in what I would call cul-de-sacs, going from one cul-de-sac to the next in a figure eight. What do you call them? Limited hangouts, I think you call them, right, Betsy?
Yes.
Don't get caught in a limited hangout wasting your time watching a YouTube that when you look at your notes at the end of 2 hours, you have one sentence. They're wasting your time. Read what we're giving you. That is sent from so many people, from you would call the agents that Betsy has everywhere, gathering information that you won't find yourself. Okay? Beyond your imagination now, and we are going to continue to do more. And what we have now entered into is because of Q,
a partnership.
And not only a partnership, but we've reached critical mass. Because it's not just Q we're in contact with, and that's what I'm trying to say. Betsy's in contact with some of the most amazing people, and I am so honored, because I have the secret phone and the secret ways. I get to talk to these people.
Yeah.
It's astounding, and Betsy does too. We talk
I
and
don't
speak.
like talking to people. I just got work
She
to
hates
do.
talking. She's got work to do.
Yeah.
So I talk to them. I vet them. I find out these amazing people. I have just met a group of the most amazing people. They're right up there with the most amazing people I've ever met in my life.
Oh, he was giddy like a schoolgirl this weekend. It was just disgusting
And I found
to
out that
watch.
I know some of these people from before,
Yeah.
and I considered them to be literally great initiates.
Okay, now when somebody finishes this
Sorry.
video, they're
Great
only going to
great
have
thinkers.
they're only going to have one line of notes because you haven't really given us something. We're saying, let me repeat. The original Q is not the same as the second Q, and Q squared is caca. Okay, got that, everybody? Now, how do you know that the alt media people that you're listening to are also being paid by the very forces that want to confuse you?
Because we used Q riddling. When we first were contacted by Q, you've noticed I put crumbs in every single talk. So if you're a genius, I have told you now exactly where to go and what to do if you want to join that group. No one ever told me that. They kept telling me, take these tests, and I'd go, I don't know why I didn't take them. They would have invited me in years ago. Because these are not cryptology tests.
Thomas, we've already outlined that.
Okay. So, the alt media, right now, after this, sorry, this is a test. It's just like the SES test. No matter how you react, you're going to show your followers who you are. And I'm not going to call out your names.
Okay, so Thomas isn't going to do
So
that.
if you don't address this release on Q, we are the only people that are saying that they know exactly who these people are. We're never going to tell you. They'd have to kill me. I'm the only one who knows, and I'm ready to die for it.
Oh, please, dramatics.
This is life and death. If Trump goes down, we lose America.
Well, I agree with that. But there are a couple of things you can do to test your alt media sites. First, you can
Q2 and 3 is trying to take Trump down.
Yes. But you can start querying them. The Socratic method works both ways, folks. So, for example, if you're hanging out in Q right now, why don't you start asking Q some tough questions? And there are questions that you will ask you will never get answers from. And if you're listening to an alt media personality who says, okay, I've got to talk about SES, so let me talk about it really fast. I'll talk about how we need to ship them off to Nome, Alaska. Okay, I'm done. SES is now finished, and I'm not going to be talking about that. Okay, back to Q Psyops. Keep the people off the target. That's what I'm talking about.
In the last week, we have revealed 4 fake alternative media people. If you've been watching, listening, and looking at the posts underneath their responses to what we are doing, you know who they are. I'm not going to tell you to leave them because some of them, 75% of what they say is right. 25% is the critical part and it's wrong. Why? They're either being led by the nose, paid by SES, and I can name those people if they wish to confront me. They won't talk to me. They said they wanted to talk to me. I threw the gauntlet down. I've given them my telephone number. They have begged to interview me over and over and over again, and they won't because they know that now I know their real names, who they are, who they're paid by, and they know that I hold their alternative news media caricature in the palm of the hands of the people who told me. All I have to do is go vet this information, and you're gone. So, anyone who is challenged Thomas pain in the ass of the globalists in the last week and stood up against us for SES, or anyone in the next 2 weeks that says what we're saying about Q1, 2, and 3 is wrong, I'll give you my number and I'll interview you. And if you do not address this and be honest about it, because the fake Q people, some of them know who they are, the ones who are interpreting what they are not pointing out is a direct national security leak, and then they think it's great. They think the 79% false prophecy rate of Q2 is great. They think the anti-Semitism of Q squared is great. Get a hold, get a grip, people. You're either being manipulated, paid, or you need to give me a call. And I'm going to straighten you out. Because I got a call and I got straightened out.